Hi, everyone. What I would like to talk about is there's a phenomena that happens when you're on this path and you start growing and changing and evolving, is that you don't feel like you're growing a lot. And why is that? Even though you are growing and you are changing, right? You're becoming a new person every day. You know, old parts of you are falling away and new pieces of you are resurfacing, new selves you've never met before, introducing themselves, shaking your hand, and you're like, who's this? But you don't necessarily feel like you've grown a lot or that a lot has changed. Or maybe you don't feel like you're doing enough. There's this phenomena that I've noticed, especially people who have progressed very far. I don't necessarily mean, they've reached the end point, which there is no end point. But I do mean that they haven't been laid back, right? They haven't been just easing through. They've been working for it, right? They've been dedicating their time, their energy, their effort, and they've been enjoying the process, right? They've been sincere and putting all of their mind, their heart, their soul into it, but they still feel like they're not doing enough. Now, why is that? A lot of people who aren't doing enough, sometimes they feel like, I can't possibly do more, like I don't have enough time in the day, But the people who are sincerely making an effort and have transformed greatly don't quite notice that transformation. And the reason behind that is because of humility. I don't mean fake humility, where you believe you're great but you talk yourself down. Humility is a manifestation of all these other characters that start to blossom within you. When you become that love, when you start loving more and more in bigger and bigger ways, when you start caring more and more for others than you do for yourself, right? When you're more sacrificing, when you're more truthful, when you acknowledge the faults in yourself, not to feel shame, not to hold yourself down with guilt and grief over it. It's important on the path to experience, both the positive and the negative aspects, the very darker, deeper emotions, the ones that I'm sure most of us have gone through, almost all of them. We're very well acquainted. But those emotions are very, very important. Because they add value to the more beautiful and higher emotions. They add more value to higher experiences. They add more awe and grandeur. So when you're feeling those emotions, you can feel it. Allow yourself to feel it. Don't hold back. I mean, the whole point of being in this world is to experience. What adds value to the most beautiful moments is that you were miserable and you were void of those beautiful moments before. It's a method of comparison. You are aware of what it was like to be miserable, so you are also aware of how great it is not to be miserable. There's no way you can really get to enlightenment without having to go through everything and experience everything. All the states of mind, all the emotions, you go through all of it. You have to. And then you understand its worth, its value, how important it is, and also how unimportant it is. Humility means that you've gotten past the point of striving and wanting to get to that end goal. There will come a certain point on your path in which you want God with a fiery passion, and that's all you want. Nothing else will satisfy you. There's nothing else that can make you happy until you're enlightened. And you push and you push. But then you lose the whole enjoyment of the process of life. You get so involved in the want and the desire. When they say you can't have any attachments, you can't have any desires, and the desires cease to exist when you're enlightened, that even means your desire for enlightenment ceases to exist. That's humility, is knowing that ultimately it's not up to you. But that's, at the same time, your self-effort can make a directly impact in your life. It can make you happier. It can advance you to great, great depths and extents that you never even dreamed that were possible for you. You'll find strength in overcoming and achieving new things, but that's part of the process of experiencing and enjoying life. Whatever your ultimate purpose is, that's different. It's not that the enlightened are no longer in this world. They are in this world, and they are beyond this world. But it's like they exist in two places at once. Right? They're obviously, they can sit in front of you, like Guruji sits in front of us every day, give a discourse, talk, interact with people, eat food, right? They still are a part of the world. And it can be kind of disconcerting at times for somebody who doesn't understand enlightenment or haven't awakened enough. They see this enlightened being behaving the same way as other humans and other people do, and they kind of get confused. They're like, but is he really? Yes. But what happens is in every moment, in every person, in all things, in all experiences, right, they can see that divinity, the truth. They can see eternity. Right? They don't just see the world as the black and white, the physical objects that we see day to day, and that's it. For us, everything's a reference point between us and the rest of the world. For the enlightened, they don't have that reference point necessarily. Just enough so that they know how to drive a car, that they can grocery shop, that they can eat food, right? The basic necessities for survival, but they don't see things the same way that you and I see things necessarily. That you and I have. They see beyond. But as you're going through this journey, It's not like when you see the imperfections or you see the parts of yourself that need work, it's not like that specific part of yourself is being picked out and addressed. Right? You're not a sequence. You're this comprehensive totality. And your essence is divine, but you're this whole. So to pick out one piece of something means that the entirety of yourself needs to be rearranged. All of what you are changes. Right? If you're working on being less selfish, it's not just that selfish part of you is sanded away, it becomes less and less, or just that single part is transformed. Right? Everything needs to shift and change. It's going to shift and change how you view yourself and how you view the entirety of the world. Everything will be resequenced. Because your totality of who you were was also based upon that reference point of what selfishness was for you. Whatever quality or whatever character that took root within yourself, right? Everything had some relationship with that. Right? There was a coexistence, but everything was hooked into it in some way or another. And maybe your understanding of selfishness would be different from another person's understanding of selfishness. So, as that part of you changes, everything changes. So what happens is, as you start becoming more and more integrated, as you start having smaller and smaller awakenings until you get to the bigger and bigger awakenings, these changes, these new realities, they integrate completely with who you are, so it's not like you can really see it. It's not something laid out in front of you, it's you. Right? If you change your hair color, unless you're not looking at it in a mirror every day, it's not really something that you take note of all the time, because it's you. Your only reference point is your new perception of reality. But the thing is, as you evolve more and more, you become less focused on yourself. That's the natural evolution. Because your own misery comes only because you're focused on yourself. If you're not happy, it's because you're not doing enough or giving enough for others. It's as simple as that. But then you reach to a point in which it's no longer about the actual action of, making a decision that I am going to be selfless, I'm going to do more for others. Because those qualities become who you are, so it's just something that you do. It's like, those who have the quality of sacrifice, for them it doesn't feel like they're making a sacrifice, because it's just who they are. It's just something that you do. You do it because you know it's right. When it becomes part of you, it's not a conscious decision like, I know this is the right thing to do and this is the wrong thing, so I will make sure not to do that wrong thing. It's just a natural character that comes forth. It just feels right. You give more to others because you know that ultimately it's the same. You're also giving to yourself. But that's not why you do it. But you don't recognize that distinction. Like, I'm taking something away from me and I'm giving it to somebody else. You're saturated. You have all. Right? You've gotten to the point in which you know that there's nothing in this life can make you happy, but you still see things that could make other people happy. And so you do those things. Because you still want the happiness for others. But a lot of people might not notice that growth because it becomes so undistinguishable from their own soul, their own essence. This is another reason why I say enlightenment. It's not necessarily something that's special. It's not, attaining something great. It's not, but it's way beyond what you think. Right? How humanity lives now, that's unnatural. Enlightenment is returning to your natural state. It's becoming your essence. It's becoming reality. You're merging with that, so you're giving away yourself. But along the journey, you don't really notice so much how much of yourself you're giving away, because the more you go along, the less you think of yourself. And so eventually you reach a point in which it's not about what you want, because you're so absorbed in God and eternity that whether enlightenment happens or not, it doesn't matter. It no longer becomes your desire because you're so focused on the eternal. You've given yourself completely to God. And you're so in love with that. But there's no sense of you loving God. This might not make sense to you until you're there. But there's no sense of I'm loving God. It's just love. It's not even a state of being. It's beyond that. You get to the point in which you know that your whole life, everything, you trust God. And the process of life so much. You love so much that you can even give up that. Ironically, it's only then when you're really ready to be enlightened. It's like Guruji, he talks about how the Buddha, he was meditating and he was trying so hard to attain enlightenment. He was doing everything within his power to do that until eventually he was just like, God, I surrender completely to you. If you want Only if you decide, only if I'm ready, will I become enlightened. It's up to you, God. That's trust. Because when you're so focused on your own enlightenment, you're still focused on yourself. Even if it seems like it's the highest reason, like there's no greater purpose, that is the greatest thing you can do with your life. You have to know that the process of life, everything will happen as you need it to happen. Enlightenment will come to you when you're ready. A teacher will come to you when you're ready. Everything will happen when you need it to happen. Because everything is God. That's humility. Waiting and trusting. Guruji has talked about before how what is a blessing? What is a miracle in a person's life? And you know, what is misery? The complete opposite, that according to us is misery anyway. And he's like, when things go according to your own expectations, right? Your reference point, who you are, when things go accordingly, when you get what you want, then it's a blessing. Then it's a miracle. Then it's something extraordinary and great, and you're like, wow, I see God everywhere. There's beauty and light in the world. Oh my God, how great this is. But then when things don't go how you want, or how you expected it to go, and trust me, life is not going to go how you expect it to go, then you're miserable. Yeah. And the light goes away.